Hello guys. So this is a video where I'm going to explain what my expectations are for paper 2. So we've gone over this in class at this point, but if you weren't there that day maybe, basically what paper 2 is an argumentative paper which will involve research. And in this paper you will take a topic that you care about, either a topic that you have a personal connection with, or a topic that is part of your field of study, and you will make an argument where you will find sources online to back that argument up and help prove why you're right. This is a kind of paper that a lot of people write in college. It's a kind of paper a lot of people write for newspapers and journals and that sort of thing. And so you will end up writing a lot of these papers later on in college, and that's why we're doing it now. This paper will be 1,000 to 1,500 words, which is about 4 to 6 pages typed, double-spaced, and it will be MLA style. So I'll show you what that looks like here in a second. Yeah, in this paper you'll make an argument and support that argument with evidence. You want to pick something complex enough to be disputed, and I give some examples of that down here. You don't want to argue that the sky is blue. You don't want to argue that it's darker at night than in the daytime. I don't know. You don't want to argue something that's really obvious. You want to make sure that it's something where there's two sides of the argument, because a part of this is finding opposing viewpoints that you can use from reasonable people. And you don't want to pick something, you don't want to argue that the earth is round, because then you're going to have to use unreasonable people to argue the other side of your points. So here's some examples of that. Like, you could write a paper arguing that slavery is wrong, for example, but that would be really hard to find good opposing viewpoints for. Anyone that you find that says slavery is good is probably a monster, right? So instead, if you wanted to talk about something in that vein, you could argue that for-profit prisons are modern-day slavery. For-profit prisons are a way of making prisons cheaper, but it also incentivizes throwing more people in prison, and basically they use people for labor that way. Drunk driving is bad. Again, nobody's going to argue that drunk driving is good. They might argue that they're good at drunk driving, but generally no one's going to say that it's good. But so you're not going to be able to find good opposing viewpoints for this. But down here is a more reasonable argument. England's drunk driving laws are more effective than those in the United States. So that would make a little more sense. For your topics for this argument, you can pick something in your field of study, like if you want to be a nurse. You could pick that nurses should get paid more, or that they should have more reasonable hours, or more legal protections, or better health care for themselves, or something like that. You could argue that certain procedures should be done in different ways, or that insurance should be streamlined more. If you wanted to be an engineer, you could argue for what the best approach is for figuring out how things should be built. Or if you wanted to be a business person, you could talk about what the best management style is, and argue for that. Alternatively, if you want to pick something out in the world that's fun to argue about, you could argue about who the best quarterback of all time is. You could argue about whether Marvel is better than DC. Try to stay away maybe from like hot button political issues, Trump versus Biden and coronavirus and stuff like that. But anything that's fun, anything that's not gonna like make people in the class super upset, I think is fine. You're going to use 4 sources in this that we'll find at the library and online. There's a video about how to do that as well. most of those will be articles that we'll try to find through Academic Search Complete. Some of your topics will be harder to find that way than others. And for this, you're going to need your paper to be in MLA format with an introduction, thesis statement, 3+ supporting paragraphs, at least 1 counter-argument paragraph, and a conclusion, and a works cited page. So what all of those are, MLA format is a style of formatting a paper, and I'm going to show you right now this sample argument up here. If you open that up, it looks like this. And this is what MLA style looks like. MLA style is just a way that a paper appears and a way of doing citations in a paper. There are many different ways of doing it, but MLA is the one that English uses. If you go on to do psychology or something like that, you'll use APA. If you go on to do business, they have their own different styles they use. Science has a bunch of different styles. Engineering has like the IEEE style. History has the Chicago style. So there's a lot of different styles. We use MLA 9th edition. So the way this should look, up here on the top right corner, you should have your last name and page number. You should have your name, my name, the class that we're in, and the date over here in a list on the side. You should have a title. You should indent all of your paragraphs. Everything should be 12-point font Times New Roman and double-spaced. You should have an introductory paragraph, and your introduction should have a thesis statement as the last sentence of your introduction. This person's thesis statement: through the use of empowering female leads, not relying on sequels, and dreamy, whimsical art that leave the viewer wanting more, should be a comma there, Studio Ghibli is better than Disney. So yours will be something similar to that, where you will give your argument that you're making and your reasons why, in whatever order you want, but it should be in one sentence. And then after that, you'll see these body paragraphs. At least 2 of these will be just supporting your claim, so you'll find articles online that say similar things to what you're saying. You should find those before you start writing your paper. And each one of these paragraphs will have 4 different parts to them. You'll have a topic sentence. This one here, the topic sentence is: empowering female leads in Studio Ghibli films break society's stereotypical and often sexist roles. After that, she's going to go on and explain what she's talking about there, and then give some evidence of some sort. This one is a quote. She can do this several times over and over again, just like you can. You'll need at least 1 piece of evidence in each one of these. Once you get to the end, you're going to have some kind of conclusion to your paragraph where you wrap up and explain how all of this is tied together into the same argument that you're making. Each one of these paragraphs will have 1 point that you're using to support your main argument. Later on, as we go down, all of these body paragraphs are pretty much doing the same thing. They're each supporting one of the ideas in the thesis that is a reason that this person's saying that they are correct. You'll notice in here that there are a lot of names in parentheses, and these are in-text citations. This is another part of what makes this style the way that it is. Whenever you use some information that you got from another website, whenever you're citing one of your sources, you want to make sure to give them credit. You either need to give the full name of the author at some point in here and say this is their words somehow, or you need to put their last name, and if there is one, a page number, in parentheses at the end of that information. So she's done that here, you see, whoever Elrich is, and done that here as well. See more of those. Here's another one. I think that's a shortened version of the website. This is Screen Rant. Yeah, if you don't have a author's name, then you will either use a shortened version of the title or sometimes the website name. So this one down here, this is a different kind of paragraph. This is a counter-argument paragraph. And one important part of these kinds of papers is you want to have a paragraph somewhere in here where you show the other person's point of view. You want to show what the other side says, what a reasonable person on the other side would say, and prove them wrong somehow. So this isn't a paragraph where you just show the other side. You also want to explain why they're wrong. And usually you'll have at least two pieces of evidence in here. One that's showing their side of the argument and one that's showing yours. So topic sentence, some elaboration on the topic sentence, and then eventually down here she gets to somebody arguing for that side. Then she transitions over to her side of the argument, explaining why she's more correct. That's where this IndieWire quote comes in. And then she wraps up the paragraph explaining why she's more correct than them. This is a very important part of an argumentative paragraph paper, because you don't just want to argue purely for your side. You're going to give yourself a lot more credibility if you take into account what other people are saying and show why they're not as correct as you. This is how you really show that you're right about something. Finally, down here, she has her conclusion paragraph. And so the way you're going to write one of these is you're going to pretty much just restate your thesis, and then you're going to show what this means in a wider context, or you're going to make a call to action, or you're going to do something to wrap up what you're saying in this paper. She made a pretty long conclusion here. Yours doesn't have to be this long. The example one that we use isn't this long. I'm still recording, right? Okay. Finally, down here, you'll have your works cited page, and this should be on its own page all by itself. I'm not going to make you write out all of these citations, but each one of these citations is all of the information you need to find this specific article that our author here used. It should be lowercase. But yeah, this is a typical MLA citation for a article. Last name, comma, first name of the author, period, in quotes, the full title, in italics, the website where it came from, the date, and then finally down here we have the link to where this actually came from. All of these, I believe, are online articles, so they all here have pretty much the same format. This one starts with the title because there was no actual author. But all of this you can just get, especially if you're using the software through the school. If you're using Academic Search Complete, you can just get a citation from there. If you can't find anything on Academic Search Complete, you'll need to write a citation. I recommend using Google Docs citation tools. It's the best one. And making a works cited in there, and then just copying that into your Word document like this. So you should have works cited here at the top, and you should have all of your citations listed in alphabetical order. The first line of each citation is justified all the way to the left, and the left, and then each one of the lines that comes after that in the citation is to the right a little bit, indented. So you just, indent those. That way it makes it really easy to see which citation goes with which. Okay, so to briefly review what you should have in your paper. You should have an MLA style heading, header, title. You should indent all of your paragraphs. They should all be in 12-point font Times New Roman. You should have an intro with your thesis statement at the very end of it. You should have at least 3 body paragraphs. At least 2 of those needs to be arguing for your points, so explaining why you're correct, using sources to back that up. Each one of your body paragraphs needs to have at least 1 source in it. One of your paragraphs, at least, you can have more than that, needs to be a counterargument paragraph, where you show what someone else would say. Actually, that is this one. Where you show what an opposing viewpoint of this would be, and then you show your own side of the argument. And show why you're more correct. Finally, you need a conclusion and a works cited page. Alright, I think that's pretty much it, guys. Good luck on this paper, and I will see you all in class.